So Methuselah's days are calculated out by Rashi to exactly correspond, Methuselah's death is to exactly correspond to the day when the flood should have happened, but God gives another 7 days in order to show proper respect to him. We continue on with the note B. So why else did we get this delay? God allowed them long terms to improve. After that, an additional short term was given for correction. Shekava lahem HaKadosh Baruch Hu zman gadol ve'achar kach zman katan. So, if a long period of an influential activity, building the ark, having them come by and ask, "What are you doing?" Having Noah tell them that this is a symbol of God's wrath, and He's going to do something if you don't do anything. Well, lots of people don't listen to messages that don't have an immediate, visible consequence. So we had to say that we have a period of an immediate, visible consequence as well. Do it now or else. So that's why we had a long period followed by a very short period.
But nobody else heeded the warning. Nobody.
Correct. And the question is that because of their particular mental state and bent, or was it because of Noah's lack of being an influence? And we will never know. C. God gave them a taste of Shabbat, of the future world, Me'en Olam Haba, so He gave them another 7 days, after which things would be complete. So they get another concept of 7, of the fact that completion and creation happens with 7. So He gives them this idea that salvation, that the ability to see the truth, does come at the end of this long waiting period. So we get a 7 that comes after it, before the inevitable destruction has to happen. Shiva, with a Revi'i, word number 4, which is 7. Shiva, again, is a note that is going to stand on its own. It's going to focus us onto the concept of that word. The postponement by 7 days included a Shabbat, which is prone for revisions of past iniquities and for positive conclusions, as shown by the broad meaning of the reading mark. The completion, the wholeness of Shabbat, so when you're waiting 7 days, one of those 7 days has to be a Shabbos. So they are going to get the influence of one more Shabbos before the flood is going to start, and that is going to stand out. It's going to be something that they're going to be able to see and perhaps take a lesson from. That there was one more Shabbos in order for them to really be able to focus themselves on the Creator and on His influence on the world and on what they were doing in the world. And that's going to sit there and be alone and be a focus and be something that's going to stand out. And that's what the Revi'i tells us. That 7, that Shabbos, was there as an example for them, as yet another slap in the face and say, do something. And yet they continue to ignore the message. And we get a note, and B, indirectly God gave Noah a clue to give a final notice to the people and pray for forgiveness. However, Noah considered himself incapable of altering the decision of God. So, by providing another Shabbos, He gives Noah another tool to have used, but Noah doesn't take advantage of this tool. Anochi. So we have the fact that it's given, but we don't have any mention that it had any influence. So he's inferring from that Noah was given the tool, but didn't use it properly or didn't use it at all. Anochi, I am, with a pashta. Pashta emphasizes the word and leads to what's going to come after it. The people should realize that I am the creator and the leader of the universe, and the heavenly laws must be obeyed. Thus they might save themselves from the catastrophe and avoid the severe punishment. So, by recognizing that there is an Anochi, the conclusion could have been different. But it's going to lead to what it's going to lead based on people's behavior. So because they didn't change, what do we get after Anochi? Mamtir, emitting rain with a zakef, with a munach, with a zakef katon. So the shape is going to separate itself out from what's come before and then lead forward into what's going to go on, the munach shape. Otherwise, I will prepare conditions for emitting rain, which, like the wind, light, etc., will assume functions as one of my heavenly servants and expand the potential in fulfilling an assignment, as expressed by the shape of the reading mark. So things are going to now be separate from the way that they were before, and they're going to lead to what they're going to lead. So rain before was something that was sustaining, and from here on in it's going to completely be separate from what rain did before, and it's going to do something different that's going to lead to its consequence. And again, very, very interesting thought that emits out of that comes out of the fact that we've got that munach there. You know, just it's telling us that the function of rain is going to change from here. Was really something that isn't something that could have been derived any other way other than the method that we're using in this translation.
The shape of the mark.
So the shape of the mark is telling us something that we would never have thought was actually there. Al haaretz, over the earth. Number 7. This is a katon. Katon is those 2 dots that are on top of the aleph, and the focus is ending a phrase, so it's connecting to what's before usually, and it's got 2 dots, so it's going to have 2 aspects to the word, possibly one lower and one higher. When it will act over the earth, it will equally affect everybody and everything, the guilty and the non-guilty, as pointed out by the bipartite shape of the reading mark. So the fact that it's got those 2 dots is going to say, doesn't matter if you're guilty or if you're not guilty, everybody is going to have an equal level of punishment. This is not going to be the normal aspect of divine justice of mida keneged mida, that everybody gets just the right amount of punishment for their own correction. We're going to get everybody, whether they are higher or lower, getting the same punishment. Arba'im, 40, with a munach, or a zakef. So this is going to separate itself out from what's gone before and focus you onto what's going to go afterward with a sharp delineation from before and moving forward. 40, being a number connected with the giving of the Torah, of maturation, but also with punishment. Bamidbar 40 shana, in the desert the people of Israel had to go for 40 years. And as such, it was thought to be applied comparably as confirmed by the shape of the reading mark. So we're going to separate out all the times afterwards, all the times before I should say, and we're going to look afterwards to a time when 40 is the number of days that Moses went up to get forgiveness for the people of Israel, and Moses went to get the second set of luchot and so on, but it's also the number of years that the people were punished in the desert. So we're going to get that concept of punishment being associated with 40, with Mem, and the way that things were before is going to be completely separate after you've got these 40 days that happen, and it's going to create a new reality. So again, that's the function of that munach, of that zakef. Katon, yom, day. Katon again is that 2 dots that are on top of the yud. So we're going to focus on the fact that it is a bipartite. It's got two parts to the shape, and therefore there's going to be two things that are going to be emphasized, or two things that are going to be counterpointed against each other, possibly one higher and one lower. The light of the day, which was heavily obstructed, was a comparable punishment for the open crimes, which proceeded without obstruction, as specified by the bipartite shape of the reading mark. So before you had light of day, and now you're going to have darkness and rain and so on. So you're going to compare and contrast those two things. And because they were doing their sins out in the open in the daylight, then we're going to have days of rain and cloudiness and not daylight. So we're going to have those two things diametrically opposed to each other, as we've got a two-part note. Ve'arba'im and 40 with a tipcha. Tipcha is going to gently connect to what's going to go forward, but its main focus is looking back and scooping up what's come before it. So we've got that first arba'im yom, 40 days. Ve'arba'im, looking backwards towards what came before, the 40 days, and 40 dark periods of this punishment, of the punishment, would be analogous to hidden kinds of offenses, as referred backwards by the directional shape of the reading mark. So we've got those 40 days of light where people were doing sins in the open, in the ways that were visible, and we've got another 40. Well, what were they doing in that other 40? They were also sinning. They were also doing things in the dark when other people couldn't see. So they were doing it with the influence of others, with the ability to influence others, and they were doing it in private. And we have this concept of what happens in the dark and what happens in the light, or what happens when somebody is trying to do something in public and what happens when somebody is trying to do something privately. So we see that when you do something in private, in the darkness, who are you afraid of? You're afraid of other people, because you want to do it in the private and you don't want other people to comment or tell you that you're doing something wrong. When you're doing something in the light, you're not afraid of other people. In fact, you're even trying to influence other people, but you're also not afraid of God. So there's something that you have to take into consideration of things that are done in the dark and things that are done in the light.
Because I would have, my thinking would have been opposite, I think, to what you're saying. Is, I don't know, which is better, which is worse. If you're doing it in the dark, you don't want to influence other people. It's just your own, whatever you're doing. And correct, you're not afraid.
You put yourself above God.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but there's a classic argument in Talmud, which is worse, the thief of the night, or the guy who shows up daylight in the dark.
Right.
And the answer is it's the fellow they're both not afraid of God, right? Because God's watching regardless. But the one is the thief in the night is afraid of people. The guy in the middle there, but the guy is not afraid of the people either.
Right. So that's not good. He's not afraid of people.
So the point is, which is worse, the point is that the fellow who's in the night, who you think would be less bad, is actually worse, because he's afraid of people. He's not afraid of God, he's afraid of people. In this case, not afraid of anybody.
And he's put the role of people and possibly of himself as the ultimate. So it's a bigger expression of ego.
Well, that's what's the ego.
Ve'arba'im and 40 with a tipcha. The 40 dark period, the 40 days and 40 dark periods of punishment would be analogous to hidden kinds of offenses and referred backwards by the directional shape. Lila, night, number 11. those would be and again, the note here is an etnachta, so this is going to be a stabilizing influence, possibly with something looking up from it. Those will be a commensurate repayment for concealed misdoings at night, or for all preparatory plans to commit offenses, as illustrated by the stabilizing shape of the reading mark. So the night in and of itself is going to be the fact that these things are happening in the dark. Is going, sorry, you want to turn off the tape for a second?